A lot of what I'm doing here is there's no blueprint for it. Like, it's not like, they've been all of these studies and now we're just applying all the things that we've learned in this situation. We're breaking entirely new ground. We're doing things that have never been done as far as I know.
This is Doing the Right Things Well, a podcast that features conversations with leaders of America's best managed companies. I'm your host, Michael Kelly, the Executive Director of the Drucker Institute at Claremont Graduate University. The Institute is home to nearly a century of research on modern management thinking by Peter F. Drucker and those he inspired. For nearly a decade, we have published a ranking of America's best managed publicly traded companies. We base our model on their effectiveness with Drucker's 5 key principles: customer satisfaction, employee engagement and development, innovation, corporate social responsibility, and financial strength. 250 of those companies are highlighted in the Wall Street Journal each December. There are many great stories behind the data. Our goal of this podcast is to hear those stories directly from leaders of America's best managed companies and about the significance of their work contributing to a well-functioning society. Doing the Right Things Well is made possible by Claremont Graduate University, the Drucker School of Management, and the Charles Koch Foundation. To learn more about the Drucker Institute, please visit us at druckerinstitute.com. Hello, our guest today is Sandra Laughlin. She's the Chief Learning Scientist for EPAM. EPAM is a company that's been climbing up in the Drucker Institute rankings of America's best managed companies, particularly in the last 3 years. And they've really been making a jump, Sandra. We're looking at customer satisfaction, right? To satisfy the customer is the mission and purpose of every business, as Drucker would say. You guys jumped 200 spots. Employee engagement and development. You're developing talent. It's your business. I've heard you on other podcasts talking about that piece. And out of the 660 companies, you're ranked 200 and you're moving up. And then innovation, right? Things change and things happen. So building on your strengths, continuing improvement of products, services, processes in the markets, you guys jumped 134 spots. So I love these stories because there's stories behind this data. So that's why I wanted to invite you on. So I wanted to help you introduce yourself and tell us a little about EPAM, because honestly, I didn't know about it. Now I do. I want to hear more.
It's so amazing to be here with you, Michael. Thank you so much for inviting us and for highlighting some of the cool things that are happening with the company. And you're right, like we're changing, we're growing, we're improving, and it's really awesome to see that reflected in the rankings. So you're not the only person who's never heard of EPAM. Like, a lot of people have not. What's fascinating about our company is that we grow entirely organically. That is just kind of the core values of the organization and from our leadership. And so most people have not heard of us unless you've already worked with us. But if you have, you generally want to do more of it. So EPAM is a $5 billion, 60,000 person professional services firm that focuses on digital platform engineering and digital transformation. So what this means is that the vast majority of our employees are software engineers or data scientists or AI experts. And collectively, we build some of the world's most advanced technology platforms. So if you can think of like apps that you've interacted with or websites that you've gone to or companies that you utilize every day to do e-commerce or many other things, chances are EPAM has been involved in the creation of that platform. And what this means is that as a business, we are not uniquely positioned, but very differently positioned than other technology vendors. So a lot of companies out there that are really well known in this space do more of the keep the lights on work and maintenance. EPAM's a bit different in that we specialize in building complex new products and helping companies really kind of evolve their business model by using technology and AI and data differently.
I love it. So when I'm thinking about, the results that you're getting, right? Because it's all about results, taking knowledge, making it productive, achieves results, and you get to be in business another day. Is for your team, I don't know how many people you oversee, but one, you've got this amazing title,
Yeah.
right? And it kind of lends into the curiosity of like who came up with it, because I think it's neat your background in academia, helping people do the hard things, which is right. You do the hard things first, things are easy.
Yeah.
A lot of people, you tend to do the easy stuff, things get hard. But you have a team, and you can't, as Drucker would say, you can't lead without managing. So how have you looked at it? Was there, when you look at the data and you look at some of the things you're achieving these results in, which you probably already know before the rankings come out, but yeah, what do you think about like team wise? Where are you finding success as a leader of your team for what produces for the overall organization?
So let me step back and explain a little bit about what it is that I do, because that would probably be helpful in explaining kind of the perspective that I'm taking on this question. So you're right. So Chief Learning Scientist, super unusual title. It is a reflection of a very unusual role. So I guess by way of like the backstory. So as you say, like, previously I was actually faculty at the University of Maryland. I taught in the business and the ed schools. My background is in the learning sciences. So, not how to teach people, because most learning doesn't happen in a formal context, but what happens in the mind and the brain to get people to learn things, particularly really complex, hard things. And I came to EPAM initially as a consultant to the company. I'd never heard of them either, for what it's worth. And the reason that they reached out to me was because for decades, clients have told EPAM leadership that our people are just different. They are unusually skilled. They are, they're very dedicated to the company. They love what they do. They're very innovative in how they think about their work. And so these clients kind of said to leadership, like, hey, you seem to have something special. Like, what's your secret? Like, what's your special sauce? And can we get some of that magic at our own organization? And because EPAM has been grown organically, and we tend to be, we're very unusual and different in how we function, and our leadership has been at EPAM forever, they actually didn't know. Like, they didn't know if there was any sort of secret sauce. And if there was, like, what was it, and was it transferable? And so they reached out to me to come and look at not just how we do learning, but how employees are selected, how they're retained, how they're promoted, how they're positioned for clients. And just to like explain to them if I saw anything like special. And like, obviously, yes, I did. EPAM is very unique in a lot of ways. But one of the things that I found is that we are just fantastic at finding great talent, bringing it to the company, keeping it in an extremely competitive market, and keeping our people on the cutting edge of knowledge so that they can in turn help their clients achieve new realize business in new and innovative ways. And so when I talk about like my perspective on the company is really coming from this position of thinking about the employee as the engine of our EPAM business, and understanding the psychology and the organizational infrastructure that allows us to be an amazing place for employees and then in turn create amazing products for our clients.
We're always talking about STEM, right?
Mm-hmm.
Science and technology and engineering and mathematics. We've been talking about this for decades. You'll see it in every inaugural address or governor or mayor coming out of their mouth. But we still seem challenged where a company like yourselves and the other ones high in the rankings doing really well. It's because they're attracting that talent. So how do people, like if I didn't know about EPAM and some of the other people, how are people finding themselves to your front door and getting into this company? And yeah, what are some of the things that you're seeing and how they've gotten there?
That's a great question. And I guess to answer, I will say that our business model is designed around cultivating our own talent pipeline. So we always say it's very hard to hire an EPAMer. just because, like, when we take in junior talent, so our juniors tend to be equivalent to a middle-level engineer in other organizations. It's very, very difficult to just come into EPAM out of nowhere. It's possible, it's just not common. And so people tend to find us in one of two ways. So either it's because they have been enrolled in a learning experience, usually as part of their university program, where EPAM has come in and essentially helped them go beyond the basic curriculum to learn complex new things. This is actually like we hire something like 98% of our junior talent has come through an EPAM co-curricular university program all around the world. Or you come to EPAM because you are you've worked with EPAMers, like at our clients will come and work with work with us, and there's just something about the culture, something about the way that we work, something about the way that we value people, and the kinds of employees that we have that attracts like really exceptional talent that wants to come and now be part of that team. And those are the there's exceptions obviously to that rule, but those are the two ways that we generally get people to know about us, and at the same time they know us as being an incredibly robust engineering culture that values people.
Yeah, I love that. I remember when I was working at Boeing at the time and thinking about like most companies like Boeing, the backbone of Boeing is engineers, right? The backbone of Federal Express is drivers, right? The backbone of your company, right, is the people who understand software and everything else. But these companies too, they have, you know, jokingly, some people say the overhead, like the marketing teams and the HR and in certain minds, even though we know it's not true, it's really significant. Um, is companies have to go and reach out more and more and partner, right, in the community, where some partner with nonprofits who are doing specific work on skills-based attainment. Some are, like you said, embedded in universities and finding success there and realizing that you really got to reach out and expand that network because of the demographics and the aging population and all that other stuff. Are there other, not giving away company secrets, but are there other innovative things that you're realizing? Because you were talking on a podcast earlier about Workforce 2.0.
Yeah.
And it is true. It's because, yeah, we get lost in the absolute of skills and apprenticeships. And I can ask 10 people on the street what workforce development means, and if we have a system of workforce development, and most people scratch their heads, even in a public policy. Are there certain things that you've been looking at that you have to be a little more innovative in reaching down further, or looking at different ways of pulling more people into that pipeline?
Yeah, I think that it goes to the idea of understanding what people are capable of, their skills and knowledge, and actually directly assessing that versus assuming that they have something because they have a certain pedigree, a certain degree, or they're from a certain geography, or they have a certain title. So this is a big part of how EPAM operates is skills-based talent management, and that includes hiring. And so when we hire, we hire based on direct evidence that someone knows and can do things, as opposed to just assuming that because they have a degree, they can do that. Because of that orientation, we are able to have an expanded talent pool than other competitors, because we're not limiting our search criteria. We're not limiting the funnel to people that have a certain degree or come from a certain background, and that helps a lot. And that kind of, it's not really a meritocracy. I don't want to overstate it, but it's it's an orientation toward figuring out what value someone brings and what qualities they have, and then aligning their work to that. But that same kind of philosophy drives every other step of the talent lifecycle at EPAM. So we use validated skills to figure out who should keep their jobs and who should grow in their careers. We use validated skills to help employees find a career path that might be atypical, but that harnesses what they are already great at and combines that with what they want to, where they want to grow in the future. And so this orientation toward really understanding our employees before they come to us and when they're here, what they can do, what they want to do is one of the big secrets, I guess, to how we have gotten such a great pool of talent that is so dedicated to the company, because we really try to embody the idea that what's best for employees, like when they are best positioned to do their best work, everyone benefits. The employee, us as a company, and then our clients.
One of the things I've always said when I mentor people, they ask, I said, when it comes down to hiring, can somebody do the job? Would they be trusted in the job? And do people want to work with them? And that interesting, I hear from all the CEOs and other people I've worked with over the years, that is the big one. People are kind of taking a deep breath, and I know that there's people that are really talented that, if they're interacting with people, they can have, different issues and create conflict. And, it's a whole different topic, conflict resolution, everything else. But I just kind of think back too of how people develop over time and how we tend to seem like we kind of remediate for things that we should have been doing from the age of 2, 3, 4, 5 and all the way up. And like, what have you found are like the 3 top qualities for these candidates that some of them you're like, you say, okay, I've heard more of your background. Like, how in the world did you develop these 3 qualities?
I'm so glad you said 3, because I've been thinking, oh, I have an answer. And the answer, there was 3 parts to it. So something that I don't remember when it was. It was, I guess, when the book came out, and I called The Ideal Team Player. Our CEO read that like whenever that came out. And the foundation of that is there are 3 qualities that the book says like defines a high quality employee, and it's hungry, humble, and smart. People smart in particular, to the point that you are making. And ever since I've come to EPAM, that has been how we talk about everything. Like we look for those qualities in people. We hire against them. It's actually like there's part of the hiring rubric. Everyone that's looking at candidates has to give feedback on their perception of the person against those 3 elements. And so for us, it's more than like a management book that people read and like everyone says, I'll read that book. It actually has directly impacted the way that we think about the kinds of people we want to bring into the organization. And being a manager here, like my first like real job, right? Like I was a professor, but now like I have to, really do all of the work. I have found that to be, I agree with it. Like it's something that I have found to be exceptionally valuable as a kind of a guiding principle for what I look for and who I try to be as an employee.
So, and thinking about the employee, and as you're, like I said, there's certain things that you have, and then you're fostering their development, you're fostering their growth, which is one of those significant things through overall, the business success. Is how many times, like when you think about HR and you think about positions, and we talked about people, process, and technology just kind of rapidly moving forward, is, things change.
Yeah.
And it's not a simple thing, as Drucker would talk about, just changing a job description, because of the interrelation with all the other moving parts in the company. I mean, is that, is that something that you have to do every 6 months, every year? Is there a way to evaluate all that? And
when I say workforce 2.0, I'm actually, this is kind of what I'm talking about. Like to me, workforce 2.0, let me step back. Workforce 1.0 was humans are the workforce. We make lots of guesses about what these humans can do, but we don't really know. We just kind of like assume that you have a degree. It means that you can do these things. We put humans into these static things called jobs that don't change very much. And then we have a bunch of people in this job who actually know and can do different things, and a bunch of jobs that are highly overlapping. But it's just kind of like a very imprecise and very rigid system. Workforce 2.0 is completely different. Workforce 2.0 is reflects a few different things. Number one is the fact that the workforce is now humans and AI. Period. Like and the dynamic interplay between what humans need to do and what AI needs to do is going to constantly be changing. And that's the second characteristic, which is dynamism. Like Workforce 1.0, you kind of like said it and you didn't forget it, but it didn't change that fast. Things are going to keep changing now. Technology will keep changing. The competitive landscape will keep changing. Regulations will keep changing. The economic structures will keep changing. And so Workforce 2.0 is kind of defined by an organization's need to build systems that allow that dynamism to exist without devolving into chaos. A third element, I think, of Workforce 2.0 is intelligence around people. What do they know? What don't they know? What can they do? What is their potential for doing new things? And all of this is kind of like we need to start building systems that collect data on all of this stuff so that we can inform decision makers and then use that information to hire people better, to staff them to work better, to define jobs better in a more dynamic way, to assess people against their job description. Like, are you fulfilling this job? And if not, how can we help you get better or find a better place for you, right? To me, the Workforce 2.0 is just a completely different mindset around the people, including agents, like the I don't know, the entities that get work done, and aligning the business toward that in a completely new way than we've ever had to do before.
So, so going down that path, and I'm thinking about one of the Drucker things is about one's own development,
Mhm,
like developing your leadership and ability to manage before you can develop teams and
mhm,
then resources in the organization. I'm thinking back on your journey of all the things you're talking about and what you did in academia, but you had been working with school districts before, right? To the application of a lot of things is now that you're in a business, right? You only have so many shots of being in front of the CEO or the board trying to explain what you feel strongly about and what the company, the direction it should go in based on its most important thing, its people, is. So how do you kind of walk me through maybe how your thought leadership is, knowing that you have influence, but when to actually like step forward and think about, I feel confident this is the path we need to choose, and everybody's looking at me and like, trust me in this. You know what I mean? It's
yes. So I guess there's a couple elements to that. The first one is, and this goes to how you get anything done. You figure out what the CEO or the board is trying to accomplish. Like, and a lot of people, leaders, in HR and elsewhere, like actually aren't that well versed in the business of their business. And so like it's hugely important that if you're advocating for additional spend, you're advocating for additional resources or even political capital, you need to frame what you're trying to accomplish in terms of helping them accomplish what they're needing to get done. So one is just an alignment of your own thinking and communication to that audience and what they're trying to achieve. Um, and so I think that creates some like immediate face validity. Like Sandra's asking for this, but she's saying that she's going to help us do this thing. Like that makes people want to listen. um the second thing, and I mean, is leaning on the fact that I have an experience outside of business. I do have an academic background. I come from a completely different field, and that allows me to look at this situation with fresh eyes, right, which is anyone can do, but also with expert eyes. I mean, because I understand how people work, um, and how organizations can put accelerators and brakes around human behavior. Like, there's a cachet, I guess another sort of like validity measure for me is that I'm coming with new ideas, and I'm coming with the expertise of someone who has studied this thing for a very long time. And I guess the third element is just never asking too much, right? So there's this, in business, right? There's always this thing of like, executives will pretty much always say yes to a pilot, right? Like if you're just putting your foot in the water, you're just testing stuff, and you're saying, here's how we will know if my idea is succeeding or failing, right? Like if you just know how to frame your message in the right way to the right audience, lean on the things where you actually have an expertise or an experience that matters, and you make what you're asking for like non-threatening, chances are you can get a lot of people to do a lot of things.
Was there any, like thinking about this, I'm thinking aha moments, right? Is you come from academia, you step in, your first week of work of any job, right? It's a little kind of like, oh, I'm just taking it in because once again, it's I know what I can do. How does that, how does it fit in all that is when you think about your first 6 months and you think about yourself now and you think about EPAM, its culture and everything else is, do you look back and say, wow, I knew all this stuff. I thought I knew a lot too. But was there any aha moments where you say to yourself, sitting here in this chair now, like, wow, I've really grown and learned in this particular instance from something?
There are so many ways. Like, I look back and I think, I can't believe they hired me. How did they trust me to do this thing that I didn't know that I could do? Yes, I've grown in a million ways. And, some of the most obvious ones are my understanding of the business of EPAM, right? EPAM is a technology organization. We speak in cloud and API and AI and large language models and like cloud infrastructure. When I came, I thought the clouds were the things in the sky. So there has been this incredible learning curve where I have felt like a big dummy, right? I just didn't know. I didn't know what the words were that they were saying. And so it was an extremely humbling and valuable experience for me to come from a place where I was the expert to a place where I have an expertise, but I have to find a way to leverage my expertise to drive something that I don't even understand. So that was just, I think, an exceptionally valuable experience, like that's very humbling, right? It really helped me appreciate, when I'm good at something, what that means, and when I'm not good at something, what that means, and how I approach those in situations differently. Um, and I guess another kind of aha, which was thankfully a positive aha, was that a lot of what I'm doing here is there's no blueprint for it. Like it's not like, they've been all of these studies and now we're just applying all the things that we've learned in this situation. We're breaking entirely new ground. We're doing things that have never been done as far as I know. And so what that has required is for me to kind of go back to my training and distill some of the fundamental things that we know about people and learning and psychology and organizations, and like put those into practice in new ways and just hope that the theory holds. And so far, it's held every time. Thank goodness. But I think that's another big aha for me, is that so much of what we do in academia, it feels so real, but it's not road tested in really significant and challenging environments in many cases. And so, it's amazing to have seen both sides of this, academia and work equation, where I know there's theory and I know there's practice, and being able to blend those things together has been an amazing aha for me, in the fact that one cannot and should not exist without input from the other.
So, I mean, if you think about your path and where you are now, I mean, I'm always curious going back into a little more of how did you get here? Like, what was it? What was something defining you had an aha moment that I wanted to help people do hard things to achieve great things? Like, where does that develop? How does that form for yourself?
You know what's so funny is that I never meant to be in this entire line of work, and by that I mean people development, like, period. When I was, like, growing up, I wanted to be a lawyer, and, in undergrad, I was, like, president of the pre-law club, and, like, I was in it to win it. I was doing my LSAT prep. I was gonna take the legal profession by storm, and then, I had one of those, like, midlife crises when I was like 21, where I realized I actually didn't want to do that thing that I'd always thought that I wanted to do. But I had this problem because I needed to graduate and I needed to get a job. And so I was like, you know what I'll do? What's a career that you can get right out of undergrad and until I can like get my head together. And it was to be a teacher. And I like my father was a teacher. I swore I would never be a teacher. Like I have no patience for children. Like, oh my gosh, what? Um, and then I went into this and it was I realized that that is who I was. Like and that's been reinforced many times in my very unusual career, right? Where I realize that I get the most pleasure and I feel the most satisfaction when I am trying to get people to do hard things that are very valuable. And this is kind of after, very different versions of this kind of career path that I've been on that I've kind of distilled for myself. It's not teaching. It's although that's part of it, it's helping people become the best versions of themselves to further themselves and their environments around them. Um, and it's something that I don't know why I didn't realize that earlier on, but it's something that gets me up in the morning, and it's been super cool to be able to do that in so many different spaces, you know, in corporate life, at a university, as a faculty member teaching, trying to change the university system, teaching little kids. Like I've had that experience in very different spaces, but ultimately all of them were going in this same direction that I never realized that I was passionate about until I was in it.
Right. I think the commonality I'm discovering with us is, yeah, my dad was a teacher, math and science in public schools for 30 years. And there's something being raised by a teacher, right? I don't know what it is. But I said to myself too, is like, yeah, I don't want to be a teacher in eighth grade or seventh grade or middle school or is doing, it's just like, but I've discovered, like you've discovered, we are teachers in a different way. And we found out, like, find something that you're good at, find someone to pay you to do it so you can keep on doing it and you keep on learning from it. And if you keep on having questions and you're curious, who knows where it goes? Like, I never thought, I'd be the head of the Drucker Institute at Claremont Graduate University growing up in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, right? And, trying to put forth these incredible messages. A gentleman that was born in Vienna, Austria, a long time ago. So this kind of, as we're going down this process, I share with you some of Drucker's philosophies. When you looked at that list, were anything particular ones jump out at you that you think about kind of yourself, personally, yourself, or EPAM, and then the alignment of all, whatever they are together?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The things that are, that really, of course, stuck out to me are the fact that our employees are happy and excited and good at what they do. The fact that our clients are thrilled with the services that we're providing, and the fact that we are innovating as an organization. And maybe it's because I'm a people person, but this all comes down to me to be the outcome of our executives from the very beginning viewing our organization as the collection of a bunch of individuals doing their best work. And and orienting our entire business around optimizing that. If we can optimize the people in the company and make sure that they are doing their best work, that they're happy to be doing that work, that they, being at EPAM, being in our company, in their communities where they're living it makes it easy for them. And like, if we're just doing good things for our employees, our business is going to thrive because our people will stay. They will do great work. Because they're doing great work, our clients are going to be happy. They're going to keep coming back because they're optimized. The employees are optimized. They're able to come up with innovations and new ways of thinking about things. Like, all of it to me boils down to, from the very beginning, our executives said, we are a company of people. And every day since then, for the past 30 odd years, our company has invested over and over and over and over again in people. And I think the fact that our business is where it is today, the size that it is, the geographic spread that we have, the kind of work that we do, and the fact that it's all organic, right, I think really, really does speak to the business value of doing good for your customers and for society by doing good for your people.
Yeah, and expand on that. Remember, you and I were chatting before this, and you're talking about one of the other principles that we measure is corporate social responsibility.
Yeah.
Which I think it lends into, I like here in California, there's momentum on when you do service, it just isn't for feel good. You're actually developing skills. You're building social capital and all these other things. And we talked to CBRE in one of the podcasts talking about the fires in California, is being able to basically go right in and be helpful on day one because it's part of something, it's part of the culture, it's part of what people value. Is you told this incredible story.
Yes. Yeah, I think there's two proof points that I would pull on. So one is, I told you that we hire 98%, something like that, of all of our junior hires come from our university programs. EPAM it's exceptional at building up the communities in which we live. We want to, we believe that technology and software skills are a core value that we can, and an asset that we can help develop in our communities. And so, our university programs are just a tip of the spear when it comes to how much we invest in educating and growing the communities in which our employees work. And we do that. We've always done that. And it's something that you don't always see it show up on some of these like CSR metrics, because it's not like a program that like gets lots of press. It's just what we do every day. But it's something that is a huge defining characteristic of EPAM. The other point or proof point that I would say, and this is, I think, the moment I was the proudest of working at EPAM, was not any of the awards that we won. It was how we reacted when when Russia invaded Ukraine like 3 years ago. So basically, at that point, something like 60% of EPAM employee, our headcount, was in either Russia or Belarus or Ukraine. And so this war hit us like in the solar plexus. It was a massive punch to us culturally, for our people, and then also from our kind of our business like positioning. And a lot of other companies who had a lot of people living or in Ukraine, they treated like they divested and they walked away and they did their best to carry on. We didn't. We mobilized the entire company all over the world to do grassroots things to help our Ukrainian colleagues, right? We built our own version of Uber. We built our own version of Airbnb just to help our employees like get out of the country or find places to be if their houses were bombed. We had so many of our employees who were living in Russia or Belarus left their countries because they felt such affinity for their Ukrainian colleagues, and because they knew EPAM was going to move out, like to divest in Russia and Belarus, and they wanted to stay with the company because they were so invested in being part of our community. We had to relocate tens of thousands of employees and their grandparents and their dogs and their families all over the world into higher cost locations. Like for us, it's more expensive to have the footprint that we have now. But as a business, our leaders were so committed to our people that we made that business decision to take a short-term hit, as you know, from our bottom line, to keep our people and to be an amazing employer for them. And that there's so many other things that we did during that time period, but I was so proud of EPAM. And it's not a CSR thing that you're going to see published in any sort of paper. It's not the kind of thing that gets tracked. But our commitment to our people and our communities is something that I think is one of the best things about EPAM, and another reason that our employees are so committed and effective at what they do.
Yeah, and I think that's that important part about living those values and being present and people seeing that. I say to my kids is you shouldn't have to worry about your grades because when they come out, you should already know what you have. And it's the same thing as a company. It's not about the awards and all that other stuff and going back to the humbleness. Is that just kind of a way that we do as human beings to collectively get together and celebrate a moment? But it's true. It's just like some of these stories are never going to be reflected in a ranking.
Yeah.
Or through data. But when you talk about it, I feel like you're not just talking about, you're talking about as you as an individual, but you're really talking about it on behalf of your team, your leadership and organization from the top down, right? There's back to that, some key talent is traits of sincerity and authenticity. And it's been really, really cool having you on the podcast. I'd like to think if one last question of we're a year from now, we're chatting. Is there something that you're looking forward to that you're going to be working on this year, or any kind of trend or anything else that a year from now you'd be like, I told you so?
Yes. It's a scary one, but it's it's exciting and scary all at the same time. I am in the next year, I predict that there's going to be some AI native company that comes out that offers a good or service that an incumbent provides today that will do it at half the price. And it will be because they have embraced this concept of Workforce 2.0. They're bringing in AI where it's appropriate. But from my point of view, more importantly, or equally importantly, they are optimizing the humans that are in their organization. It's the right people doing the right work in the right way with the right skills. And I am so excited to see this manifested. And I think it will happen in the next year, and it will be scary. Like, don't get me wrong, but it will also, I think, be the proof that human capital is one of the most undervalued and misunderstood and misused resources in any organization.
I love it. Thank you for your time, for an hour of your life, as I'll say here. I've really appreciate it, and it just highlights. I mean, somebody in a company doing the right things well, and it could be defined in different ways, but some of it is foundational. And but I enjoy it because it's not the headlines of AI is going to kill everybody's job. There's always a nuance to the story. There's always more to the story. So I like to think that this conversation kind of jumped around a little, but we had some good threads at the end of the day that human beings are incredible. They do incredible things, particularly when they're inspired, they're guided, they're mentored, they're counseled. And they find themselves in organizations who believe in that. So congrats to you, congrats to EPAM, and we really look forward to seeing some more jumps in the rankings next year.
Thanks, and we look forward to doing that jumping. It's been awesome chatting with you.
We thank you for listening to Doing the Right Things Well podcast. We'd also like to thank the Charles Koch Foundation for its generous funding to help make this podcast possible. The Charles Koch Foundation works to ensure all people have the opportunity to live a life of meaning and contribution based on their unique gifts and aptitudes. They do this by investing in the social entrepreneurs who can transform the institutions most responsible for lifelong learning, post-secondary education and business, and empowering people to engage in work that benefits everyone. To learn more about the Charles Koch Foundation, please visit charleskochfoundation.org. That's Charles, Koch Foundation.org. Please do subscribe to the Drucker Institute's YouTube, Spotify, and Apple podcast channels to listen to more episodes in this series.